Hey everybody, it's Rob here at eTrailer.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the eTrailer Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our Hyundai Santa Fe. Now here's what our hitch is going to look like once we have it installed. Now the cross tube is going to be visible, but what I really like about the eTrailer hitch is that it has that flat black look, so it kind of blends in on the bottom. It's not as noticeable. But since it is a Class 3, it is going to give us that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, so it is going to open up a lot of doors when it comes to accessories we can mount up. Obviously with the trailer hitch, a lot of people think of a trailer. Now, we can throw a ball mount in here and tow a trailer, but at the same time, we can also make a lot of room on the inside of our Santa Fe. Maybe if we're going on a road trip, we can put a lot of gear on our cargo carrier back here, so we have plenty of room for passengers. Or at the same time, if we want to hit the park, maybe go to the trails, take some bikes with us, we can put a bike rack in there, and we can go on a bike ride with our family or friends. But regardless of how we're going to be using our hitch, all the accessories are going to mount through the hitch pin hole here on the side. Now the hitch is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these aren't going to come with the hitch, but you can find them here at eTrailer.com, along with some locking devices to make sure those accessories are secure, and anti-rattle devices to cut down on that annoying rattling sound coming from the receiver tube. Now if you are going to be doing some towing, you need a spot to hook up your safety chains. Now here you can see we got a plate style welded at the bottom of the receiver tube. They got pretty large openings on them. And if you have what I consider most normal size hooks, shouldn't have any problem getting them hooked on. And even with those really large oversized hooks, you can see there's still plenty of room to get them hooked on and take them off. Not going to have to worry about any kind of interference or even potentially scratching the car, because our safety hooks are going to be on the bottom here and there's plenty of room to get them installed. Now if you're looking for a hitch, you obviously have something you want to do with it, so the weight capacity is going to be pretty important. Now our hitch is going to have a 900-pound tug weight. That's going to be the maximum downward pressure at the end of the receiver tube. Now to put that in perspective, really not going to have to worry about how much we're going to be able to put on a cargo carrier, because that's probably going to exceed most capacities of the cargo carrier. And even with a bike rack, again, we're going to be able to carry quite a few bikes with us. But just remember, you always want to go with the lowest rating out of the hitch, the car, and the accessory you're using. Now as far as the gross trailer weight rating goes, it's going to have a 6,000-pound rating. That's how much the hitch can pull, but that does include the trailer and the load we have on it. Now it's also designed to work with weight distribution systems as well, and that's going to be a separate component that's mounted on your trailer, and that's going to keep the tongue weight right at that 900 pounds, but it is going to bump the gross trailer weight up to 8,000 pounds. Now you do want to keep in mind, you want to double check your Santa Fe's owner's manual, because again, that's going to be the rating for our hitch, and we don't want to exceed the manufacturer's rating for our car. I'd like to give you a few measurements. These are going to help you whenever you're looking for accessories for your new hitch, whether that be a ball mount, a bike rack, or a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is going to be right about 5 inches. Now that measurement is going to help you out when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you can put them in the upright stored position and not make contact with the rear bumper. Now from the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening is going to be right about 14 inches. Now that measurement is going to help you when you're looking for a ball mount, so you can find the appropriate rise or drop to match up to your trailer. But at that height, I would also recommend a bike rack or a cargo carrier with a raised shank, just to get a little bit more ground clearance out of it. But now that we've seen what our hitch looks like and gone over some of the features, let's go through the installation process together so you can have the confidence to do it at home. Speaking of our installation, the first thing you want to do is lower down your spare tire. Now you can either do it from the inside where all your spare tools are, or if you actually come underneath the bottom, you can see, you can find the gear mechanism that actually holds your spare tire in place. And if you use a 7/16 socket, you can loosen it up. But I do want to know, if you do it from the bottom, just to let you know, you actually have to turn it to the right to loosen it up to allow the cable to come down. If you're doing it from the top, it's the exact opposite though. Another quick thing I do like to mention, this cable here does have a tendency to grab hair really well and ends up pulling it out. So since we're going to be underneath here, what I like to do is I'll just take the cable, just kind of push it towards the front, going over the rear subframe right here, because again, it will grab your hair, whether it's on your arm or your head, and it tends to pull it out very easily. Next thing we want to do is on either side, we're going to have these plastic panels that we're going to have to pull out. So you're going to want to grab a Phillips screwdriver, And we're going to have these little push pins all along the edge. Now the way these come out is you want to take your screwdriver, and without putting too much pressure on there, you want to unscrew the center, because if you push too much, it's just going to go back into the push pin. We want that center to come out as much as possible so we can take the tension off the push pin, come underneath the base, and pull the rest of it out. And we're just going to work our way going all along the edge, loosening all those up for both of these panels so we can pull them down. And once all those screws are removed, the panel will be a little bit tight, but you should be able to just grab it and pull it down, because there's actually some plastic retaining nuts, but they don't actually come off the panel, so you do just need to kind of grab it and pull straight down, and then we can set both of these panels aside. Our next step is going to be lowering the exhaust. Now you don't want to lower it down so far that it causes damage, so I always recommend putting up some kind of support. I'm going to use a strap, that way I can just adjust it so there's a little bit of tension on the bottom of the exhaust. But if you're at home, you can also use a jack stand or a floor jack, just so that you can control how much it comes down. But if we move back to the tailpipe and come forward just right where the resonator is here, we're going to have an exhaust hanger on the middle towards the center of our Santa Fe, and then we're going to have another one at the back that's going to be towards the outside. Now if we continue following it right past the rear axle here, we're going to have another hanger, and they're all going to be a metal hanger on a rubber isolator. All three of those need to get loosened up so we can lower our exhaust and have plenty of room to work. So I'm just going to take a little bit of spray lubricant. I'm going to spray on the hanger and the isolator. You can also use soapy water, just something that's going to make it a little bit easier for that rubber to slide. And then we just want to pry against that isolator. And we're just going to go through and repeat that for the other hangers until our exhaust can come down and we have a little bit more room. And once you have all the hangers loose, you can lower the strap down, give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, and we can always pull down on the exhaust just a little bit if we need a little bit more room while we're working. So if we come to the bottom of the frame, we're going to find two weld nuts. Now those are going to be our two mounting locations, and they're going to be the exact same locations on both sides. Now you can see that ours have a little bit of rust in there, and typically, since they don't have any plugs in them, they probably won't have a whole lot of debris, but they may have a little bit of rust just because moisture can get inside. So I like to come back and spray a little lubricant in there. Take a nylon tube brush. I'm just going to clean out all the dirt, debris, and anything else that may be in the weld nuts to make sure that our bolts are going to thread in properly and not cross thread. So on the bottom of the frame, when we go to put our hitch up, we'll have our new bolts. We want to follow those up with a conical tooth washer. There's little teeth on there. Those need to be facing up towards the hitch. And since we're here already, we went over the mounting locations. I like to take the new bolt and see if I can easily thread it in place. If not, I'm going to go back and re-clean all the weld nuts and make sure that I can get it in place before we lift the hitch. Because again, you don't want to have to hold the hitch and then find out that the weld nuts have too much gunk in them and end up cross-threading your bolts. Now I suggest getting an extra set of hands to help lift the hitch up. It's not extremely heavy, but it does make it easier to get everything in place. You're going to lift it up so where the bottom plate lines up with those holes. Then we'll take that combination of hardware, and you want to get at least one in on each side. That way the hitch will hold itself up and we can work on getting the rest of the hardware in place. So now we can come back and we're going to tighten up those 4 bolts in the bottom of the hitch. That'll get it to suck up against the bottom of the frame and get the rest of the holes to line up. So if we come to the passenger side frame rail, we're going to find 2 holes on the outside of the frame. Our hitch should be going underneath and wrapping around to the inside of the frame. We want to take these long bolts that come in our kit and the spacer that comes in our kit. We're going to pass the bolt through the spacer. We want to line it up and pass it all the way through where it comes out on the inside of the frame. We're going to make sure you get both bolts in place. and again that they're going all the way through. And on the inside of the frame, we want to take the 1/2-inch flange nuts that we have. We're going to put them right onto those bolts we just passed through. Now keep in mind, you will notice that you have your bumper alignment pin right here. Now it may be a little difficult to see, but it's going to be just barely in the way of getting the nut all the way on. So what you can do is you can either cut that alignment pin, or if you don't want to cut it, you can take a pry bar, and we're just going to bend it out of the way a little bit, so we have a little bit of room to get that nut started all the way. Now on the driver's side of the frame rail, we're not going to have a spacer over there, but we still want to take our bolts from the outside where the hitch plate is, start there, and pass them to the center, and the nuts are going to be going on the center of our Santa Fe. And again, we're going to have that same alignment pin at the back of the bumper that we're going to have to bend out of the way so that we can get the hex nut on and tighten down. Now for the carriage bolts, I'm going to use a 19mm socket. You can also use a 3/4 inch socket. We want to snug them up so they're nice and tight. And we'll move to the other side and tighten those up as well. You want to make sure you come back with a torque wrench and torque all your hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. Now you do want to pay attention to the size, because the bolts going through the side of the frame are going to get a different value than the bolts at the bottom. Again, we're going to go back and repeat that for all of our remaining hardware. So with the hitch in place, we can get our exhaust back up. I always like to spray those hangers down with a little more lubricant. Makes it a little bit easier to slide on. We'll just lift them up and slide the hanger back onto the rubber isolator. So now that we have our exhaust and everything else back up, we can lift up these panels. And usually the easiest way I find it to get them in place is if we get the panel lined up with those studs first. Typically you can just kind of push up, it'll hold itself, and then we can just start working the panel in. Then we can get all those fasteners back in place. Now the trick to these push pins when you go to push them back is you want to make sure you leave that center section still sticking out. We'll put the base in, make sure all the legs go in there, and then you should just be able to push in and lock it in place. And just go through and repeat that and put all the fasteners back for both of these panels. Once you have both those panels back up, all we got left to do is put our spare tire back up. That'll finish up your look and your installation of the eTrailer Class 3 custom fit trailer hitch receiver on our 2016 Hyundai Santa Fe.